One show, every franchise, zero middle ground. Welcome to the Fandom Files. You know, they say that these are meaningless arguments, but to us, they mean everything. From who actually walks away from a Batman vs. Superman showdown, to the definitive rankings of the greatest PlayStation 2 classics, we're breaking down the greatest debates in pop culture and putting our reputations on the line. We've done the research, we've got the receipts, and now we're ready to make a move. So the lines are drawn, but it's up to you to tell us where you stand. What's up, everybody? Welcome again to an extension of the Batman Drew podcast. This is the Fandom Files, and as you heard in the introduction, we're here to settle all the greatest debates in the world of fandom, at least by the opinions of a couple of jackasses like us. So, should be fun. We're going to dive right on into today. So, with me on this episode is a very special guest. You've seen him around. It was kind of like finding a stray cat. You gave him food. He just stuck around our channel, and I'm very much grateful for it. In all honesty, Dad, man, I can't thank you enough for all the contributions to the content we've been putting together so far. And honestly, it means the world to me. And when today's topic, when I was getting ready to kind of add it to the show notes, man, you were such an advocate of today's topic and the game that we're going to talk about that it got me to play it. You have some incredible insights to it, to the game, and I'm sure to the topic we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited, man, to have you on another episode with us. So, Dad, man, first let's start out, man. Tell us where people can find you.
Well, thank you again for the introduction. And I'm more of a dog person, so I'll take
That's
stray
fair.
dog instead of stray cat. But listen, man, listen. At the end of the day, like I know, like sometimes like making content can be a little daunting. So like for me, it's just more fun when there's more than one person involved. Like a
Absolutely.
lot of the times, like it's kind of like a little bit of like an insane feat. Like you're just talking to yourself on camera and hoping that somebody's watching, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like I'm never gonna say no to a collaboration. I just enjoy the conversation, uh, as opposed to just doing it individually. So I do appreciate that as well. But I mean, you guys can find me on YouTube as the Dad Man. You can also find me on TikTok. Very minor posts there. Just a lot of insane Magic the Gathering interactions that are just, I think, hilarious and need to be seen by the world. So if you're into that sort of stuff, just check me out and feel free to, follow and subscribe and all that.
No, I love it. And just to reiterate about your content, especially on your YouTube channel, if you guys are Magic the Gathering fans, and especially in particular, you're fans of Magic the Gathering Arena, and you're a little bit slow like me and can't just comprehend it, the tutorials and the walkthroughs that you do for Arena are so insightful and super helpful, especially when you're talking about like the Brawl format and how to build decks and stuff like that. So some incredible content there. So today on the Fandom Files, we're going to talk about Expedition 33. Now, if you've seen the content on my channel so far, you know that we did a roundtable discussion and review of Expedition 33. I think it's safe to say for a lot of video game fans, it is arguably one of the best video games of the last decade. And I know some people think it's one of the best video games of all time. And immediately after the release and the success it had, there were talks that are already about developing this into a film franchise. And I mean, why not? Like, there's so much there to be able to unpack, and I think it would be silly not to capitalize on it, especially because this will contain spoilers for Expedition 33. I don't know if we could openly talk about this without spoiling the game, but it's been out for a
Right.
minute, so um the story is pretty much a self standalone story. I'm sure they could figure out ways to come up with a sequel, but at the end of it, you're given a choice, deciding factor of the game. So if you end up with a sequel of the game, then the developers are kind of telling us that there is a specific ending that you were supposed to have chosen. I think, like, I don't know how you could make it go either way, but with all that being said, yeah, if you're not going to make another installment of this specific storyline, let's make a live action movie. I think it sets itself up in the world and everything. And so I know there's already been talks about it. There's already been rumors about it, and fan casting all over the place. And so, why not give our 2 cents on it? Kind of talk about who we think would be, great for some of these roles. But before we dive into that, Dad, man, just take a couple of minutes, man, and just talk about the game, what you loved about it, and just kind of summarize your thoughts of what you thought about Expedition 33.
Um, oh man. So there are very few games that I can talk about like extensively and like not get tired about the conversations. Expedition 33 is one of them. Final Fantasy 10 is one of them. Final Fantasy 8 is one of them. There's a few games like that that I could just talk and talk and talk and talk about. Just a little bit of backstory. Before I played Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I was in like a little bit of a gray area with gaming. I wasn't really like enjoying it as much. I wasn't like excited to play anything. I wasn't really feeling it. And I don't know if it was because there was some stuff going on in my life where I felt like maybe it was time to stop playing video games because that's what adults are supposed to do, which is total bullshit, by the way. And Clair Obscur Expedition 33 brought me back into my not only love of gaming but like my appreciation behind the art form, because at the end of the day that's what it is, right? Like it is an art form. No matter how difficult it might be for some people to accept it as an art form, video games, the way they are made today or even back in the day, it is an art form. It's a form of self-expression. It's a form of storytelling. So Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has a special place in my heart because it brought me back to the world of gaming in a completely different spectrum, right? Like I appreciate a lot of the things that came before, a lot of the things that we have now, and hopefully a lot of things in the future. So it's slowly becoming one of my favorite games of all time. Uh, I miss it, which is weird to say. Like I haven't played it since I've played beat it a second time, and I miss the world. I miss the characters. I miss the game. So ultimately, like when all is said and done, it will probably be the most important game I've ever played in my life because it brought me back from the brink of just not gaming at all ever again. And yeah, I don't recommend anybody doing that. So yeah, it is a very special game, not only to myself, but I know to a lot of other people, it's a very special game. And what it boils down to me is the care that was put into it by the developmental team. When you make something that you're passionate about and you essentially make it for yourself and then just you're not really worried about what other people are going to think about it. Like Sandfall made a game that they wanted to make for themselves that they would want to play, and then it was just received very well. And I think we need to get back to that a little more moving down the road.
No, I totally agree, and I don't think there's anything I could add that you just didn't say better than I could right then and there. Yeah, I love the game. I really did, and I think the one thing that you mentioned right there at the beginning about missing that game and missing the world. I'm playing Ghost of Yote right now, and I'm liking it. But I think it had the unfortunate timing of being the game I played after Expedition 33, and
Right.
I can't get into it the same. I can't, I Expedition 33, you still think about that world. You think about Lemire, you think about those characters. Ghost of Yote, I honestly, I couldn't even tell you the main character's name right now at this point. And that's not a knock on the game. I'm not trying to be mean to the game because I'm enjoying it. It's just, I'm not invested in the same way. So, Expedition 33, if you happen to be watching this and you haven't played the game, then do yourself a favor, go find it. It's a day one type, release type game. The fact that I waited so long, shame on me to
Yeah.
to
Me
to get
too. Me
into it.
too.
So, but we're talking about a live action Expedition 33 movie, and we're gonna go through our fan casting for the list of characters, and kind of talk about what we think, and who could play these roles. And so you and I have not shared each other's lists yet, so we're going into this
Nope.
blind, and we haven't
Yep.
even really talked about what order we're going to go in. But I think we should probably, to me, I think that Gustav and Verso are a couple of the more important ones. I think your main cast and whatever we'll probably kind of get to at the end of this list, and we'll start with
Sure,
some
that's
of
fair.
the more supporting roles. So I'm gonna butcher some of these characters' names in this, I'm sure. But the first one that we're gonna talk about, I'd love to hear your pick for. Is it Clara? Is that how you pronounce it? The sister's name
Um,
from Expedition 33?
Clea,
Clea. Okay, so
yeah, or
Clea,
Clea, yeah.
um, Clea, yeah. However you want to pronounce it. I say we start there because a very impactful role in the game, but a very short-lived role. Like you didn't get a lot from her in the game, but I think what you did get from her was extremely important to understanding these characters and the world that we were living in. So, what do you think, man? What do you think about this casting? Who do you have in that role?
So this was actually really difficult. I like I'm not like so in tuned into like young Hollywood right now, like to know like who is like big in Hollywood right now. So I had to do like a little bit of research. It's the first time in a long time I've had to do like research for something and like kind of second guess myself. But I think I've finalized like my list, and some of the picks that I have might seem a little conventional. So I do have some explanations as to why I chose them. And then when we get to those characters, like we'll talk about it. But for Clea, like she does have a minor role in the game, but she's the character that I think could be expanded on the most. Like if they open up like the world and they open up the lore building
Yeah.
of Expedition 33, because as you come to find out, she is the one who's creating the Nevrons. So like she's kind of got like the evil witch like puppet master kind of vibe going. But trying to fit that with like people in Hollywood was really really tough. So for me, like for Clea, it was I had two people, and one of them is going to show up on this list a little later. But I ended up choosing Florence Pugh, and
Okay.
here's the reason I chose I here's the reason I chose Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh is a huge star right now. Um, but as far as Clea is concerned, like she's not a major part of the game. But if, like I said, if they were to expand the lore of Clea, I feel like you would need an actress who is like not like a super huge name, but that can carry a role like that. And I think Florence Pugh, like her filmography is really good. Like she's a pretty solid actress, and she's young enough to where like if she had to put a franchise on her back, she could do it. But for this context, like it's a very minor role in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And it has like that mentor feel like towards the end, like when you finally understand like who Mael really is. Like she has that kind of like mentor, like big sister feeling towards it. And I feel like I harken back to like the Kate Bishop and the Yelena Belova relationship in Hawkeye, kind of like that a little bit. So I think for my pick for Clea would be Florence Pugh.
Man, I like that pick. When thinking about these characters, man, I didn't want to try to think about whether or not they looked like the character from the games or not. Like I wanted just to pick
Right.
who I thought would be great in that role. But when you said Florence Pugh, she didn't pop up on any of my fan casting here. But my first thought whenever you said that was, she has such a, I don't know, such an aura around her when she's on screen that it feels a little bit fantastical, if that makes sense, right? And I think
Right.
that her presence in this, I think that's a really good pick. I think I might like it better than my pick here, but my pick I went with was Anya Taylor Joy. Um,
Okay,
I
I
yeah,
can see that. I like that
so
actually. That's a good one.
yeah. So Anya Taylor Joy, I was not a huge fan of her until I watched her in the movie The Gorge. Have you seen The Gorge with her
I have
and
not.
Miles Teller? So
I have not.
It was an Apple TV production. They just threw it out there and it didn't go to theaters or anything like that. And I remember watching it. Me and Scarlett, my wife, watching it, and I was like, man, she's really good, right? Like just her presence on screen, her personality, and then in The Gorge there was a lot of um because the premise of the movie, without giving anything away, is her and her counterpart are separated by this giant gorge, right? You can see that in the trailer, and their communication back and forth to each other is a lot more body language than it is verbal and vocal. And so I think what the reason why I went with this casting was because of the world and just how I guess you know paint brushy it is, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
know that's
yeah,
a really
yeah.
lame
That's
way, but
fair.
you know what I'm saying. Like, you needed someone who just kind of, I don't know, embodied that with that physical presence. And when I thought about this casting, I was like, you know what, like that was one of the first names that came to mind. And like you, I did some research too, and I was like, all right, who's out there? Like
Right.
who can we find? I ended up settling with Anya Taylor Joy, and I think either way though, I really like the Florence Pugh casting. I think you put her in anything, she's a hit. But you're right. I was going from the approach of like, the limited amount that we got her in the game. And if you're wanting to be able to expand that character out, I think an actress like Florence Pugh would give you the ability to be able to do that. And of course, they're not going to make one movie of this. Like, they're going to want to make it into a franchise, and I think
Right.
you would need someone who could potentially be have a larger role and expand that. So I like your pick there. So all right, let's move on to the next one. How do you pronounce is it Aline? Aline?
Aline. Aline.
Aline. So Aline, again, spoilers. We find out that she is the mom and ultimately the paintress of the movie. Um, and this character is obviously a much larger role, but obviously going to be very CGI heavy in the way that it's presented. The character's presented. So, who did you end up going with in this role, Dad? Man, who did you think?
So for me, I th- for me there was only like immediately like it popped into my head. There's only one choice for me here. Her name is Eva Green. She was I could just give you a little bit of stuff she was in. She was in the sequel to 300. She plays like this evil queen. She's also in an it was in like an old show. I think it was called Skinners. Like it's a British TV show. But for me, there used to be a show on Showtime. It's called Penny Dreadful. It was based off of like the Universal like horror monsters like the Wolfman and like Frankenstein and Dracula and all that.
Yeah.
And she plays this clairvoyant character who like has she's possessed by this ancient spirit, and she has like ties to like the spiritual world. And the performance she gives in that show is like so like haunting and so chilling that I felt like she'd be the perfect paintress. Because, like you said, it's going to be heavily CGI'd, right? But she's
Yeah.
still going to have that voice to deliver those lines and have those conversations. And just the way she was in Penny Dreadful, where when she was acting possessed, she was insane. But then when she was also like in her normal body, she was kind of softer and more motherly, kind of. I feel like that'd be like the perfect balance to play a character whose backstory is a mother who lost a child and is struggling with, holding that grief. So she is like my only pick for that. She is a little bit older, so like timing wise, it makes sense. But Eva Green is my pick for Aline for sure.
That's a good pick. I'm unfamiliar with the actress. I just pulled her up as you were talking about her, and she's a French actress, which is in, I think in most properties probably isn't that big of a deal, but in this particular one, it's a French made production studio and game. Like, it's the French theme across this game is
Right.
strong. So I definitely think that's a good one. I went with Tilda Swinton. Um, and so
Oh,
I
that's a good one. I like that
when
one.
when I thought of the paintress, man, for some reason, and obviously this is a little bit more pop culture, but I thought of the ancient one. I thought of her in Doctor Strange, and I thought, again, kind of, it's going to be a lot of CGI. Obviously, we already talked about that. This is the way they're going to be presented, but I think with her, um, like, especially her body type, you could have like some incredible motion capture with her, as the paintress, and just her presence and her persona, and then her, um just I don't know. It was the first one of the first names that came to my mind. This was one of the ones I didn't put a whole lot of thought in because it just her name stuck around for me. But I think honestly, this is probably, and this isn't a knock on the character of the game because it was a great character, but like this is probably the one out of the list of characters we're gonna go over that is it might be the least important in my opinion to the
Okay.
casting, but I don't know. Do you think I'm off base on that? Or how important would you put her up there?
So I don't think you're wrong in a sense of casting a movie, right? Because you're trying to cast an actor to play a creature essentially, right? So like it's more motion capture, CGI, voiceover type stuff.
Yeah,
Tilda Swinton does have a very distinct voice though. So I like that. Like it makes sense. And now like Kate Blanchett is also popping into my head now. Like just thinking of like Galadriel from like Lord of the Rings. She has that very like haunting, distinct voice. And I think that's kind of like I think we're on the same track there. You want somebody who can deliver dialogue and who can deliver emotion through word, and I think that's important. But like her physical representation in the game, like her human side, yeah, that is less important than the voice of the paintress for sure.
yeah. So moving on to our next casting. So we're gonna talk about Sophie. Um, Now here's the thing, right? When you're talking about screen time, had the least amount of screen time of any of the names we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
talk about on this, but it was because of the performance of the voice actress, the performance of the entire cast really, and the opening of this game that got me completely hooked. And I think that um if you rank these castings on variants of importance, I think she's got to be up there because if you don't know the game, and you're just a movie fan and you're wanting to be able to see this and you want to get that audience invested right away, the emotional moment of the what is it called, what is
The
that?
prologue,
Well, yeah, but what is the actual event called in the game?
the
The
gamage.
Gamage. Yeah, if you're wanting the impact of the Gamage to be something that's going to hook the audience, I think the casting of Sophie, like you have to get emotionally invested in her and Gustav's relationship right away.
Yeah.
So, who do you have for your fan casting for Sophie?
So this was the second hardest character for me to cast because of everything that you just mentioned. She has the shortest amount of screen time.
Yeah.
She's instantly gone. Like you're introduced to her and she's instantly gone. But it is so vital because she is the emotional vehicle behind the game. Like until you start unraveling what's actually going on, she is the emotional vehicle for the protagonist. Like his motivation to go on this expedition is because he's losing the woman that he loves and he wants to provide a hopeful future for those who come after, right? That's his whole thing. So it's definitely somebody that is charming that you can fall in love with immediately and be like, my man just lost his girl. So this was really tough. And um I started thinking about like movies that I've seen where like maybe the movie wasn't so great, but like I love the character. And like not so much like how the character played out, but like how the character was initially introduced. So I ended up choosing Daisy Ridley, which is the
Mm,
actress who plays Rey from The Force Awakens. I don't like how those Star Wars movies ended up,
yeah.
but her first introduction where she's just a regular like junk pirate and it's very like there's no force connection at all, and her interactions with Finn and everything, like the whole buddy cop relationship that they have, and I was like, that's somebody that is charming, has a nice like charisma to her, where I feel like if she's written correctly, she can deliver the performance, and you are kind of like hooked in the beginning, and then she's just ripped away from you, and you're just like, okay, like now we have to go and avenge Sophie's death. So I chose Daisy Ridley to play Sophie.
That is a really good choice. I think one, I think Daisy Ridley is a underrated actress, and I think that because those Star Wars movies ended with a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, she gets a bad rap for them. But I thought her portrayal as Rey was great, so I like that choice. I went with Emma Corrin. She was probably most known for her role in Deadpool and Wolverine. She is the main villain there in Deadpool and Wolverine, the female
Oh,
Professor Xavier, if you
oh,
will.
okay, yes,
Um,
okay, okay.
she's done a lot of other stuff. She was in Nosferatu. She had done a lot of like TV shows and stuff like that as well. Prior to her being an actress, or a movie, movie actress. But what led me to deciding for her was, I felt like with the Sophie character, I think part of the things that made her work at the beginning of the game was the banter back and forth between her and Gustav, right? She was very
Yeah.
witted. She knew what was coming, and she, like, her focus had nothing, like, she wasn't sorry for herself. It was about preparing Gustav for his expedition and making
Hmm.
sure that she made the most out of every minute that they had left. Like, when you're going through the town, if for some crazy reason you're watching this and you haven't played the game, take time at the very beginning of the game to hit all those little stops along the
Yeah,
way, because they
for
really
sure.
build this world out, and they build these characters out. And I did that. Like, you going through and you're kind of dancing, you do the painting stuff, like, and I thought, okay, like, I think you need to have someone who is going to make you smile. And obviously you want someone who looks the part as well, but I don't know, something about her wit and her charm and her humor, really, like, I just thought, okay, if you take her, less villainous and more sweetheart, high school sweetheart type role, with
Hmm.
her delivery and everything like that, with Gustav at the beginning. um I thought that would be a very good choice. And I think also, we'll get to Gustav towards the end of our fan casting, but in my head I was like, okay, would she do well paired up with the person I have as Gustav? And
Yes, yes.
I think that's super important as well. So
Good pick for
um
sure.
all right, so let's go ahead and move in. We're going to go into a couple of CGI characters that are going to be more, voice actor style than necessarily. I mean, you're going to have people on motion cap, but we're going to start with Eskia. Is that how you pronounce it? Eskia? Eskia?
Eskia, yeah, yeah,
And so one of the more lovable, charming characters
yeah.
in this game, I mean, really, honestly, was the heart of the team, and
Yes.
gave a lot of levity to some of these serious moments. And so I think this is a going to be a very important casting to this, because I think you're going to have. I mean, honestly, I mean, I just take away that his size, he's the baby Yoda of this franchise. He's the
Right.
he's the lovable, a character that everyone just, you're gonna sell all the merch for an
Oh, yes.
SPA toy. So who do you have in that role?
So so I kind of cheated a little bit because to me Eskia is uh he's my favorite character in the whole game because of what he
Yeah,
represents. He represents the peace, or like the peacefulness, or like the very brief peacefulness that you get. Like, hey, do you just want a hug? Like, how many times, like,
yeah, yeah,
as a guy, like, how, like, how many times, like, you come home from a hard day at work, or like you're just so beat up, and then like your kid or your wife runs, comes up to you and just gives you a hug, and that just picks you up immediately. Like, I got you, like, don't worry, like,
yeah.
we're good. So to me, like, I love Eskia. I'm actually contemplating. I saw this really nice artwork of Eskia where it's his face and like his banner with all the characters like coming down, and I want to get that tattooed because it
That's
just
awesome.
looks so beautiful. So I kind of cheated a little bit, and I honestly, because it's a voice acting role, I just want the voice actor who did Eskia, and his name is Maxon Cazorla. I just want him to reprise his role. Like, to me, I can't really see, because his voice is so unique. I can't really see anybody like stepping in his shoes, and how important he was to me while I played the game. I know that's kind of like a cop out, but that's who I would choose. I would choose the actual voice actor from the game to reprise his role in a motion picture for it.
You know what? It's not a cop out. I had the same pick.
Yeah,
I
it's just it's
Yeah, when you're talking about, it's like, yeah, a lot of times when you're talking about these live action adaptations of some of these beloved franchises, like what Expedition 33 is going to be, I think it's anywhere you can continue to keep some of the original flavor.
Yeah.
It's important, and I think in this case, what there would be no purpose served in going to go get another name to be able to voice this character, unless if you were just trying to stack the deck with like people that names that people would know,
Right.
and I just don't, with the way that they made this game and what they, the love and passion they put into it, if they make it with that same kind of love and passion in a movie form, they're going to pick who they think is right for the character and not who's going to sell the most movie tickets. And I didn't know who this guy was prior to looking his name up for this episode. And yeah, I couldn't imagine another character being in there. He has a couple of credits to his name. Apparently there was like a 12-minute fan film called Logan the Wolf. It's a Wolverine fan film where he looks like he is the voice of Wolverine in this little fan film called Logan the Wolf. You can find it on his IMDb. I might have to check that out. But yeah, I think that's the right choice. I can't imagine
Yeah.
anyone else we'd have there. So
Yeah.
let's talk about another CGI heavy character. Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
Monoko.
Minoko.
These
Yeah.
names I suck at, man. Monoko. Who did you have as Monoko?
So again, Minoko for me is like the comic relief. Like his relationship with Verso is just so hilarious. Like just the bromance, the buddy cop. And again, I'm gonna it's another cop out for me here, but because it's highly CGI, highly motion capture, I had to go with the original voice actor, and his name is Rich Keeble. I mean, he has such he listen there you could probably find similar people who have that tonality and that voice and that like growl that he has, but like if it's not broken, don't fix it, I think. And especially because the way his character is going to be portrayed, like it's not going to be a like somebody wearing a prosthetic. It's going to be a CGI character with maybe some
Yeah.
motion capture, which they already did for the game anyway. So it's not like they can't just do it. So I copped out again, and I chose Rich Keeble to be the voice of Minoko in a live action project.
So although I think you are spot on it, and we had all the argument for SKA, I did throw out a different name on my pick here from Monoko. I went with Clancy Brown. I think
Oh yes,
when you kind of want that gravelly voice, that intimidating presence, I felt like he was a honestly a good choice to be in it. He recently, if you, I don't know, how many people have. I mean, I hope a lot of people have seen The Penguin. If you haven't seen The Penguin, that's shame on you. But the HBO series The Penguin, it's about the Penguin we got from the latest Batman movie with Robert Patterson. He plays a big role in the Penguin. He does just a phenomenal job in that movie, and his voice is so iconic to me. Like that, if you were going to pick another name that you wanted that people knew but would make sense to the character and who you're trying
sure.
to portray, I think he would be a good one. So
I mean, that's the voice of Mr. Krabs, so he has the comedic.
yeah.
He has the comedic chops to do it. That's actually he wasn't on my radar because I was so just narrow focused on Rich Keeble. But yeah, that makes total sense now that you say it.
All right, so now we're moving on to your main cast members here. So we're gonna start with CL, who is one of my favorite characters in this game. Who did you have on your list to play her?
Yeah, so CL is an awesome character. Her combat is so complex, but I she was my favorite. She was my favorite. Like her kit, like her combat kit was my favorite because she could do a ton of damage. She could buff everybody, and she could also like really ruin like the enemies, like with the foretell and
Yeah,
everything like that. But her combat was complex because of the moon and sun charges. So like you really need to like study it and understand it to like maximize it. But once you figure it out, she's just a powerhouse. But for me, this was like another no brainer. Ella Purnell is the name of the actress. She's in the Fallout series right now on Amazon. She's a young up and coming actress. She like looks like CL too.
Yeah.
That didn't like sway me that much, but like the fact that she looks like her and is also a really good actress, and I think she has like the gravity because she's the lead of a hit show right now. I think she could pull it off. And again, CL is an important character, but it's not like the major like three characters of the game. So I still think you want somebody with like a good caliber for acting, but not so much like a huge name. So like in that in between tier. And I think Ella Purnell would be my choice for sure. And there's like nobody else I would choose.
I like that choice. I've seen her in a couple of different things. I haven't seen Fallout, but I know that I think she was either nominated or maybe won some Emmy awards for. I know Fallout had a lot of love when it came to Emmy season. So I know that she's a great actress. I think that's a really great choice, very inspired choice. For me, I went with a character, and it looks nothing like what we get in the game in this aspect. But I thought to myself, okay, if you could plug in a Oscar nominated, maybe even an Oscar winning type actress here to play this role, that you could bring in and kind of elevate the casting. I went with Natalie Portman.
Ooh, I
Now
like that.
now disclosure, don't come at me in the
Mm,
comments. I actually don't like Natalie Portman a whole lot. I think she's an incredible actress. Like, I just, something about her just doesn't work for me.
okay.
But yet, when I was thinking about this casting and thinking about who you could add to it, um, I think you need to have a character who can, or excuse me, an actress who can portray grief and sadness, but still optimism and hope, right? And with the character in the game, she loses her family, and her and all the trauma that has come with her, and with everything in this world, and she just continues to thrive and to push forward, and to show her fortitude. And I don't know, I felt like Natalie Portman would bring something and elevate this role, and in the meantime might be the role that ends up getting me to actually really like her as an actress. Because like I said, I was like, when I was going through and I made my short list, I was like, man, Natalie Portman's probably the right choice, even though I don't quite care for her all that much. But
Mm,
I don't know. I think that, again, when you're talking about your main set of cast, this is probably the one that is the least important of like your top six casting in this, if
yeah,
that
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
for sure.
But I think it's an important one. So let's talk about who was probably my favorite character in this game. I think I might have to put a little bit more thought on that, but I do think this one might be my favorite character. But Lune, um, who who did you have for your fan casting for her?
Dude, this one was hard. Like I really needed to like do some research. Now, if they were making this movie 20 years ago, I would have said Lucy Liu like immediately,
Yeah,
right? Like shit,
yeah,
that would have been like. And I know that that might sound like super cliche, but that's just who pops into my head. Like like that's. But again, she's up there in age, so you're not gonna do a Lucy Liu, right? So I had to like really like look. And then I remembered the girl from Agents of Shield, Chloe Bennett, but I was like,
mm,
I don't really feel
yeah,
good about that. So then I was just like looking, and then like um K-pop Demon Hunters. I looked at some of the the casts for K-pop Demon Hunters, and the girl who plays the voice actress of Rumi, not her singing actress, but her voice. Her name is Arden Cho, and her filmography is pretty light, but she's done some pretty like good shows that I personally haven't watched but have heard good things about. She's kind of like my wild card here because on a performance aspect, I don't know how good of an actress she is, right? But I feel like this is one of those like casting choices that like, oh, you casted that person to play her, and then she
yeah,
just blows it out of the water. Like this is my Heath Ledger getting casted as the Joker pick, right? Because everybody lost their minds when Heath Ledger was casted as a Joker. Why would you pick him? The guy from 10 Things I Hate About You? Like, are you kidding me? And then he turned in an Oscar winning performance. So, like, this is my Heath Ledger pick. Like I'm gonna go with Arden Cho to play Lune, and I think it would be one of those like, holy shit, she blew it out of the water, because there's Lune has so many powerful like scenes and
Yeah.
so much powerful dialogue. She is the tactician of the group. She is the most calculated person in that group. So I feel like this would be like an actress's dream to play a role like this because of how the character is written. So that would be my pick. Somebody who doesn't have a vast filmography, but maybe could surprise everybody and be like, "Holy shit, that worked so well! It was awesome." So Arden Cho would be my pick for Lune.
I really like that pick. And I think you're right. I think you go out and get someone who, to the general public, is kind of a no name. This is your chance to if you're a casting director and you find that diamond in the rough who ultimately ends up like catapulting their career, would be a great addition to a movie like this. I so here's the thing, right? I'm just being transparent. When I started looking at names, obviously you want to keep in mind their cultural heritage and their nationality or whatever, right? You want to keep that in mind because you don't want to whitewash this movie, obviously, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. Right.
um, and so when I start pulling up, names who could potentially play this role, I don't want to just like the name I'm going to throw out is probably the name that I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of people would throw out in their fan casting. So I don't want to sound cliche, but I do think that this is an incredible actress. So my pick was Karen Fukuhara. Fukuhara, how you pronounce her name? She's the girl from The Boys. And she also was, I think she had a small role as one of the characters in Suicide Squad. I'm trying to think of the name of the character. Katana, was it Katana? I think was her name.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know who you're
Yeah.
talking about. I know who you're talking about.
And again, I don't want to just be like, oh, here you go, Asian actress. Let's plug her in. Who's probably one of the most popular out there right now. But she's a really good actress, man. And I think when you look at this character and what you need from her, like I said, she's one of my favorite characters of the game, if not my favorite, just because um there's so many times where at every turn everyone starts to get emotional crazy, right? They
Mm-hmm.
start she was the one that was grounded. It was like, no, we need to do this, what makes the most logical sense. We need to, and at the end, um almost throwing that away for to kind of roll the dice and go back to Lemire for the final battle and things like that, right? Like it just, I don't know, such a complex character. You got to put shoes on her, though. Don't make her walk around barefoot this whole fucking
Oh
game.
no, dude.
But
She floats around. She doesn't need
that's true. Okay,
shoes.
if you have her float, don't let her walk. Don't
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
again, that was too much for me. But no, I just listen. If first of all, if you've seen Karen and the Boys, like the physical nature of this girl, like she will fuck someone up. Like, so I have
Right.
no doubt how awesome she would be in combat, but also like just her presence. Like she has, not to be weird, but she has a beauty about her that I think that you would want from some of these characters, and she's 33 years old as of this moment. She's probably gonna be like 34. Her birthday is like February 10th, it says here on her IMDb page. um so she fits the age for what you're looking for these characters, and I just I don't know, I think she would be a great addition to it. So there were a lot of different names that you could have thrown out there. I like your idea about kind of finding a no name person for this, but
Yeah.
if you're looking for someone who has some credits under her belt, I think Karen is a good route to go. So all right, let's move in to some of our, I guess, heavy hitters who we'll need here. So I'm going to let you decide. Do you want to go Rainier or do you want to go Verso next?
Let's go Renoir first.
Okay. Renoir. Why did I say Rainier? Renoir. All right. So this was actually what's funny is this was actually the character that started this conversation between you and I, because I sent you my fan casting on who I thought this would be. And we had a little bit of a debate, about this character specifically. So Renoir, who do you have for your casting for this character?
So for me, there's no for so for okay. So I only have one choice for this, and I think if they were to actually make a movie and didn't cast this person to play Renoir, then the movie wouldn't hit for me the way that I would want it to. And I think Andy Serkis has to play Renoir. I
Yeah,
mean, he is the um so he is the character that bridges the fourth wall, right? So he is the character that exists as one character inside of the canvas and then exists as a completely different character outside of the canvas.
yeah.
And his whole angle is he just wants his family back. He just wants to put his family back together. But he is the bridge to the fourth wall to the audience or the player. He is your, like, I can totally relate to what this guy is saying because all he wants is his family to come home. He just wants his family to be safe. We're both dads, we're both husbands, so obviously we can relate. And it's a great twist because the whole time you think, he's this super evil dude, and he is to a certain extent the bad guy, right? But
Yeah.
then you understand his motivation once you find out what the canvas really is, and you're just like, he's just a papa bear who just wants his kids to like not lose themselves, and he doesn't want to lose his marriage, and he wants to protect his wife, and it's like that's a very noble sentiment. But the reason for me is that it has to be Andy Serkis is because I saw what he did as just a voice actor in the game. He would kill it as Renoir on screen. Andy Serkis, why he doesn't have an Oscar, I have no clue. But you're talking about the guy who literally created motion capture. Like, this is the pioneer of motion capture. You're talking about Gollum and Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. You're talking about Caesar from the Planet of the Apes movies. And let's not forget, he played a really good Alfred in the Batman movies.
Yeah.
Like that like father figure, that like emotional gravitas that he had in that movie, and if he could just wrap that all together and literally just do a 1-for-1 of what he did in the game to on screen, like, to me it doesn't get more perfect than that. So Andy Serkis, lock it in, final answer, Renoir.
So I like your pick. I think that is a all your points make 100% sense, right? But when I think of this character and I think of the opportunity that's here for this movie and everything like that, I sent you a text and I said, man, I said I can't get Hugh Jackman out of my head as this character, right? As Renoir. And um for me, the more I thought about it, the more I am sold on Hugh Jackman in this role. Hugh Jackman to date does not have an Oscar under his belt. I think you do this movie, you do it right, you get all the casting right, you develop a script, you adapt it to film. I think this could be his Oscar, not even nomination, his Oscar winning performance in a supporting role for this movie. He wouldn't be the lead, obviously. I think Mael, we can all agree Mael's the lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hugh Jackman wins himself an Oscar if this movie is done right. To me, one, he looks very similar to the character anyways. But it's not even about that, man. It's just about his his charm, his ruggedness, his look to him, his presence on screen. And the one thing about all these characters is that it is all a big stage performance in this game, right? And I think that Hugh Jackman, him being a Broadway actor, brings another level to this. That being said, if they announce Andy Serkis tomorrow, playing this character and being in this movie, I wouldn't be mad at it. I would celebrate it. I think it would be a great choice. But for me, Hugh Jackman is the guy that I have on my list for this. So, um, all right. So we're moving into the top three here. So, I'm gonna save uh Mael for last because I think again, I think she's the lead in this
Yeah.
movie. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we'll save her till the end. Let's go ahead and go Verso next. So Verso, obviously, hugely important to this movie. I think you're gonna need someone who the audience is going to hate at first and then have to grow to love the way we did in the game. And because once you lose Gustav and you're just like, who the fuck is this dude, Verso? Like,
Yes.
fuck you, man.
100%.
I think you're gonna have to have someone, but then you're gonna have to have someone who you're gonna hate and hate and hate and hate until that turning point, and you're like, man, like he really, because you, I don't know about you, but through the course of playing the game, I didn't trust Verso for the longest time. I was like, no, he's got something up his sleeve,
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
I
For
think you
sure.
have to have someone with a little bit of that kind of shadiness to them. So I don't know, who do you have as your fan casting for Verso?
So what you said just now about it has to be somebody that you're gonna pretty much hate until like the very end. That is kind of how like I went and I approached this. I started thinking about who is an actor that people are not. He's gonna come in. He's gonna make this grand appearance after after what just happened. He's gonna come in. He's gonna stop Renoir from killing Mael, and then he's gonna like who is an actor that I would see on screen and be like, I hate this motherfucker, and then at the end be like, I totally get it. So I had to
Kevin
rack
Hart.
my brain for this. No, well, yeah, Kevin Hart. I had to rack my brain for this, and I ended up settling. I don't want to say settling because I really think it could work if it's written properly and done properly. I think this guy is a good actor. I actually think he's a really good actor, but I don't think he's had that breakout role just yet. Aaron Taylor Johnson. And the two movies specifically that brought me to this is The Bullet Train, where he plays like this scummy, just mustache wearing, just
Yeah.
asshole assassin type guy, and then Kick Ass, where he plays the main character in Kick Ass, this dorky, lovable hero type, And I was like, if they could just like mesh those two together, not to mention, I think physically he would be perfect for the role because you just throw a beard on this guy with some long hair. He's in really good shape. The ladies probably love looking at somebody like that because you need to have that character, right? You need to have the character that's going to bring the women to the theater. Like you have to have that. It's Hollywood, right? Um, so I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would be my pick for this because he hasn't really turned in that performance where you're just like how you said with Hugh Jackman, like this would be Hugh Jackman's grand opus. I think this would be something that would put him on a platform. I think he's a solid actor and has just been the victim of maybe some poor choices or poor writing. But I think he has potential, and that would be my pick for Verso, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I like that pick. I think out of all the picks that we've had that we've gone over so far, I think my pick, we're gonna have the largest discrepancy between our two picks right here. I went a little bit different. So I understand that the course of the game, I understand that these characters are ageless within the game, and Verso is that too. So you would have to age down this individual just a little bit, and you would have to you, if you wanted to explain it within the movie, you would have to kind of play with a little bit with the lore, what happened behind it. But for me, I went with Adrian Brody um as
Okay.
as Verso.
Okay.
And because again, I went with an actor who I thought, like, okay, who could portray that kind of slimy, greedy type, like, you just don't trust this person type feel to it. And Adrian Brody has that kind of like um presence to him, especially when he's in roles that are like very, like, I know this is a little bit off topic, but when he's in roles that are very like mobster or gangster type roles related,
Mhm.
right? He just
Yeah.
has that you can't trust this guy type feel to him. He is a Oscar award winning actor.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I think that if if you went, like, let's say all these castings went down the way we're talking about, and we went with Andy Serkis versus Hugh Jackman, I think the name that you're looking at in this movie would be an Adrian Brody. Then I think like his name would bring similar to oh, I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head for some reason, but who was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movies. Like
you and McGregor.
no, in the original Star Wars movies. Old
The
Ben
older
Kenobi.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when Star Wars came out, like he was the only guy with a name. People didn't know Harrison Ford at the time. People didn't know
Yeah.
Mark Hamilton, right? So Mark Hamill. So like I think that you bring in Adrian Brody, he gives some credibility to this movie, and I think that he would do excellent in that role. That being said, he's like 50 years old, so
Yeah.
you would have to like figure out some way to really like age him down a little bit, not do CGI aging down because that stuff always looks weird, right? But like practical effects makeups to age him down a little bit. He's a young looking 50-year-old, but still,
Right.
I think my pick would be Adrian Brody. So here we go. These are our top two, and arguably the most important casting of this movie. So let's go, Gustav. Who do you got?
So before I have two. Before I give you my choice, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If you were gonna make Clair Obscur Expedition 33 into a movie, would you do one movie or would you take the 3 acts and make it a trilogy?
So me personally, I would do one movie. Because if you're taking the game we have currently right now,
Mm-hmm.
unless if you're making the stuff with the sister part of that journey and you're really kind of fleshing out
Mm-hmm.
that like you had talked
Mm-hmm.
about, I don't know if there's enough there in Act 3 to make a trilogy. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Hollywood would figure it out. I mean, they made the fucking
That's
Hobbit
so
movies a trilogy, so
so that's what my thought process was, right? So if you do that, if they start fleshing stuff out and make it a trilogy, right? Where part 1 is act 1,
yeah,
part 2 is act 2, part 3 is act 3. You have excellent ending points, right? So you have end of act 1, Gustav dies, cliffhanger, you have to
yeah,
wait 2 years for part 2. Same thing, end of act 2, you realize that it's all fake and Alicia is Mael. End of the second movie, you have to wait 2 years for part 3. So I feel like the structure is there. But I agree, I think it should only be one movie. That's how I think. So I'm going to give you my trilogy pick, and then I'm going to give you my single movie pick. So if this were to be a trilogy, right, of where it's 3 movies, and the first movie is Act 1, and it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie, I would choose Robert Pattinson to play Gustav. Okay? This Robert Pattinson is a phenomenal actor.
yeah,
He essentially looks exact like that. I
yeah.
think
He
they
does,
modeled
yeah,
Gustav after him, right? He is an incredible actor. His range is insane. He could play serious. He could play funny. He could play emotional. He could do it all. I think the guy is a fucking treasure, and I think he's very underrated because of all the Twilight stuff. But if you've seen some of his work, like The Lighthouse or Good Times, like you can see his his acting range. He is awesome. So that would be my pick because you're gonna get a 3 hour movie of Robert Pattinson being Gustav, and then he dies, and it's like, oh my god, they just killed Robert Pattinson. They just killed the main character, and then boom, the sequel,
yeah,
right? But I don't think if I were to make the movie, I wouldn't do that. I would make it one movie. So if it's just going to be one movie, then I would go with Charlie Cox to play Gustav. Charlie Cox is Gustav, right? And his main source of acting is actual live action, right? So we already know what he could deliver with his voice, right? He delivered one of the best protagonists we've seen in the last 10 years who was ripped from us prematurely, right? I would love for him to get the opportunity to bring that character to life on the big screen. So I would go with Charlie Cox coming back and reprising his role as Gustav. I think it's a big name off of the MCU and Daredevil stuff. So I think you're going to have draw there. I think it's going to keep the purists of the game happy because everybody loves. I have yet to meet a person who doesn't like Gustav. Everybody loves Gustav as a character. So I would go ahead and call him up and be like, Charlie, tell Disney you're going to be Disney, and we're gonna make this movie, and you're going to be Gustav. That's who I would play. That's who I would have as Gustav.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I think Charlie Cox is the guy. Obviously, I talked about earlier about keeping some of that original, flavor from the game. Him coming in as the voice actor for Gustav, like when I found out he was in this game, I was like, really? Like not because I don't like him, but because like you're talking about a big name actor doing a video game. It doesn't happen that often, right? And so
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and in a world where you have like a lot of big name voice actors. I mean, obviously I had Ben Starr in this game, but they could have easily went out and got like Troy Baker, who would have done a fine
Yeah.
job in this as well and stuff like that. But
Yep.
it was an inspired choice for them to be able to have Charlie Cox, and I think the reason why is because he embodies Gustav. He is Gustav, and I think that um when you think of a couple of the scenes, the most dynamic scenes for Gustav, one, every time that he's trying to you know be the hero that everyone needs him to be, and he's keeping a smile on his face, and he's trying to push the team forward and keep everyone positive and motivated and stuff like that. There's just something charming about his smile in the game that I think only Charlie Cox would be able to deliver on screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the big one is when Gustav was willing to take his own life because he thought it was all gone, and he thought it was
Mm-hmm.
all over and everything was done with. Um, Imagining like some of the and we're talking about like Daredevil. I love the Daredevil character, but it's not like Daredevil is like the pinnacle of peak action or peak acting, but Charlie Cox brings something to that character and to that show
Yes.
that is so
Yes.
emotional. And
Mm-hmm.
I imagine Charlie Cox sitting there as Gustav. Everyone around him he thinks is dead and gone and everything. Like this whole point of this whole mission is just over. And the emotion he will bring to that moment, that's
Yeah.
what got people invested in Gustav, right? Like it was that moment because we've all been there. And like I
Mm-hmm.
think and not to like turn this into like a men's mental health type soapbox here, but as a guy, we've all been there where we felt like shit was just over. Like and we just
Mm-hmm.
we're done. We're done with the fight. It's done. It beat us, it defeated us. And for to be in that moment, man, like I think that he would deliver such a good performance. And if they do it at just one movie, he's only there for like 30 or 40 minutes, right? And so
Yes.
you gotta
Exactly.
make that hit. You gotta make that moment hit. And I think he's the right guy for it. I really do. So
Yeah.
all right, so here we go. Our star, our lead of this movie, who really is kind of a dual casting here because you're going to have to
Right.
play Mael and you're going to have to play Alicia and you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to play them what we don't quite because I think they did a really good job at least for me anyways. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I was like that looks like her, but is it her? It's kind of like
Yeah.
what's up with
Yeah.
this? And it was really you're playing two different characters because Mael is energetic and she's charismatic and she's the life of the team, and then Alicia is like tortured and desperate and hurt and honestly speechless, right? She doesn't talk like that part of
Right.
her doesn't talk. So I think you need someone who you can really bring to the table that can bring some very interesting flair to this character. So dad man, who did you get?
So this one was a little difficult because my brain, because I just finished watching Stranger Things, and my brain kept going to Sadie Sink
Yeah.
because she looks exactly like Mael, and she's not a bad
Yeah.
actress. But I was just like, no, that's not the pick. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. So I was like, okay, like to me, what ultimately led me to my decision was the duality of Mael and Alicia. So this is the approach that I took. Mael is vibrant, young, some for the most part happy-go-lucky up until like Gustav dies and then she gets her darkness arc. But Alicia is not that. She is stone-faced. She is speechless. She can't speak. So I needed to cast somebody who can I kind of go like the Tom Hardy route with Bane. Like he wasn't really like he didn't have this part of his face in the
Yeah.
movies. So all of his emotion was through his eyes, and I feel like Alicia would have to do the same thing when her face is covered with the mask, and then essentially towards the end of the game when you see her burns and everything, but she still can't speak. So I chose Mia Goth to
Mm.
play Mael. Um, she's a young up and coming actress. She's done a lot of like crazy like horror movies, but her acting is crazy. Like her emotion and like how she acts with like her body language and her eyes and her she and then you see her in interviews and she's like this sweetest little like 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 she's like a little girl talking kind of like she's so sweet and so kind and but then you see like these powerhouse performances that she has and I'm just like I could totally see her playing the happy-go-lucky younger character and then also giving you that emotion through body language and eyes without being able to speak. Like I really think she would be able to pull it off on both spectrums of it. And then of course at the end of the game when you realize that Mael is just this badass that she just forgot who she was and now she becomes like this powerhouse, I think she would just be able to bring all that home towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good choice. So it's funny. I kind of laughed a little bit when you said Sadie Sink because that is my pick for my like.
Uh
So and it's not like does it have something to do with the fact that she looks like her? Sure, it does. Like it was,
yeah.
you can't deny that aspect of it. But um, listen, so this will probably be a topic on the Batman Drew podcast when I review Stranger Things. Because of the gaps in between seasons and because of how long from season 1 to what are we in season 5 now it has gone or
Yeah.
whatever. um I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like I am enjoying the show, but when I look back at it, I'm like, I don't really even remember how we got here, right? But I'm watching it because I enjoy it. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy everything about it, right? And although like if you said, Andrew, where they started to where they are now, walk me through that story, I couldn't tell you anything. I'll just be honest, right? And so, but with that being said, so far in this final season, Sadie Sink has done a fantastic job for the Max character, and especially
Hmm.
no spoilers here, but I know that the season finale is already out and everything, but um, for a vast majority of the season, she's navigating the ups, where she's in that else world or whatever it's called in the
Right.
show,
Right.
and she's carrying the weight and the emotion of the show by herself, just one counterpart with the kid's little sister that's in the show, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think she's doing a fantastic job. She's going to be in the next Spider-Man Brand New Day movie. I don't
Hmm.
know if it's been announced yet who she's actually going to be, but I
I
know there's
think
a
they
lot of
said she's
rumors.
gonna be. I think they said she's gonna be Rachel Summers.
I think that would be an excellent choice. It would be interesting to where, okay, how does that come into play? But
Right. Right.
this isn't obviously a Marvel show. We're talking about Episode 33, but
Yes.
I think that it is a I think she is primed for the opportunity to be able to show she can be a lead in a franchise and in a movie. And I think that if you surround her with some of the names that we've talked about already, if even if we just split the middle, let's say we went with Charlie Cox, we went with Andy Serkis, we went with Tilda Swinton, like if you surrounded these names around her, I think that it would help elevate her performance and that she would shine in this role. And
Hmm.
I also think that, man, part of the charm of this character is that she felt like our little sister. She felt
Yeah.
like
For
someone that
sure.
we could relate to, and yeah, for me, Sadie Sink is where I landed for my other. The question will be, how can she portray Alicia, right? Because I think that's especially depending on what ending they give this movie, based off
Right.
what like that last scene like is almost sinister-esque, and
Yes.
so I don't know, we'll see. So did you have a chance to think about director? I know I threw that on your plate last minute, but did you think
Oh,
about director for this?
yes.
Okay,
As soon as you said, I already knew.
all right, who did you get?
So in my mind, there's only one person on the face of the earth that can direct this movie. Okay. I think we all agree the art direction and the originality of the characters and the creatures in this game is some of the greatest things that we've ever seen in gaming. So, in order to bring that world to life, I think you would have to call Guillermo del Toro and be like, dude,
Yeah.
I got this for you. Here you go. Here's what you need. Go cook. Because if anything, he would get the creature, like the Nevrons and the Gestrals, he would nail that. Like there was no way he wouldn't nail that. Like Pan's Labyrinth, the Hellboy
Yeah.
movies, all of those creatures that he's had in his movies. I haven't gotten a chance to see the Frankenstein movie yet, but I heard amazing things about it. Um, and then that other movie that he had with like the lady in the water or something with the
Oh
fish
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That weird movie. I like that movie. It was weird. I liked it though. But like his like the way he builds his worlds and like he uses practical effects. And I'm not saying that it would
The
be
Shape of
very
Water.
difficult. The Shape of Water. There you go.
Yeah.
It would be very difficult to make all the Nevrons practically. Like I think the bigger ones you would have to use CGI, but
Yeah.
like the smaller ones, I think you could do practical effects, and I think he would nail that. And especially I think of the Nevrons that are like human sized specifically. Like you have the one that has the two like slicers on his arms that moves really fast. You have the one with the spear. Like I feel like he could make those come to life with prosthetics and you know like real stuff. And then like the bigger ones, yeah, you'd probably have to do some type of CGI. But Guillermo del Toro is the only person in the world that should direct this movie because I think he would understand the emotional weight behind the story and the characters. And I think he would be able to translate that to screen. If I had to pick a second person, it would be Peter Jackson. But Guillermo del Toro 100% would be my shoe in for this.
Yeah. So I think that's a great choice, right? He was definitely at the top of my mind whenever I settled on a director. For all the reasons you just said. I think his imagination and his vision, for what this movie could be would be just unreal. So my pick though is borderline fan service to this movie, but I do have a legit reason for it, right? So my choice for director would be Andy Serkis. So
Okay, that's fair.
fan service, obviously, because of his role in the game. But when you like to me, I think you're gonna have to have a portion of this movie, a very large portion of this movie, be dedicated to the creatures that you come across and that you see throughout the course of this movie. And you had mentioned it, Andy Serkis is like the godfather of motion capture. He originated
Mm-hmm.
like it he is the end all be all when it comes to that. And so
Mm-hmm.
getting a director who's already lived in this world and knows the story, but also someone who could be able to direct and bring to life what this world could be in form of motion capture. I think that he would be a solid pick to be able to do that. You think of like his movie Mowgli, his Jungle Book movie that he did several years ago. The only thing live action in that was the boy. Everything else was CGI and motion cap.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
Obviously, Venom: Let There Be Carnage was okay. Like it wasn't what I wanted from
Yeah, yeah,
Carnage being
yeah.
in a movie, but obviously like just his ability to be able to bring to life characters that um, from scratch like that through motion capture, I think that he would be a great decision for this. And at the end of the day, like um, I think you do have to be selective on who you have direct this movie because I don't think you could just go and find a nobody. I think it has to be someone who knows what the fuck they're doing because if you bring in the wrong director to this, it could go bad very quick. So I think the list is short. I think if you
Yeah.
had three or four names, I think those would make up two of them. Um, And then the other name that I had in my head, and although because I just think he's the greatest director of all time in my opinion, and I think that he would find a way to make it work, would be Steven Spielberg. And I know that that's a cliche, like, oh, of course you would say Steven Spielberg, but there's not anything like this under his belt. And if there was a guy to come in that I mean, of course he has incredible movies under his belt, but this is like a whole different level, I think. And I think he can find a way to be able to pull it off. But I think the list for sure is short when it comes to directors.
There was another name that popped into my head too. Denis Villeneuve, the guy who
Yeah,
directed Dune. I think he could do, especially because he's French too, right? So I think he could do a good job. But to me, like Denis Villeneuve more was the cinematography more than anything. The world building with those zones that you go into, everything is so fantastical, and like
yeah,
I feel like Guillermo del Toro would just eat that shit a lot. I like the Andy
yeah,
Serkis pick, right? Because he was in it. So he knows that shit like the back of his hand. And he could probably, get, the motion cap stuff down. And he would probably get a really good performance out of everybody because he lived it, right? He was in it. So I like that pick too. But I'm just specifically just thinking about the world building and how like the art set direction would go. I feel like Guillermo del Toro would just eat that shit up, man. I want them to make this movie just so that he could direct it. Like that's why I want him to make this movie. I think that would just be a masterpiece at that point.
No, I think that's a great pick. So, but what's most important, guys, is what you guys think. And so the greatest part about Expedition 33, in my opinion, is how, Dadman kind of alluded to this at the beginning when he talked about why he loves this game so much. It brought something out of us as video game fans, and honestly united a lot of what is a divisive fan base when it comes to video games. There's not very many people out there that I've heard who've actually played the game who's like, yeah, Expedition 33 sucks. Like the people who are hating on it are the ones who've never downloaded it and never played it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you've played this game and you've experienced everything in this game, then you understand just how incredible it is and how passionate people can truly be about it. So, what do you think? Who is your fan casting? By all means, tell us that you think we're wrong in the comments. At the very minimum, it gives us engagement on our content. So we appreciate it very much. So we'd love to be able to hear back from you guys. Listen, if you've listened to this so far and you've been here for the last hour, 15 minutes listening to us ramble, I just want to say I appreciate it. I really do. I know that it's hard to make time for the things we love. So the fact that you stuck around this long, honestly truly means the world to me, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So guys, remember to like and subscribe. Obviously this is a new podcast. We want to be able to grow, and we want to keep the conversation going, so that means you got to share this podcast as well. So make sure to share it out to the people who you love and that are in your life, and let them tell us we're wrong about our fan casting of Expedition 33. So guys, again, we appreciate it. We'll catch you guys again at the same Batman Drew time on the same Batman Drew channel. Thanks, guys.